Bumbray.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Beard and the Bald. I am Paul Shirey, the Beard, joined by my compatriot, the Bald Christopher.
It's Christmas time. There's no need to be afraid. At Christmas time, we let in light and we vanish hate. And in our world of plenty, we can spread a smile of joy. Throw your arms around the world at Christmas time. But say a prayer. No, I'm not going to sing the whole song, but I love that song.
Me too. I added my little contribution to it. We are obviously in the festive spirit. It is Christmas time, and I celebrate Christmas. Chris, I assume you do. Did you say your girlfriend?
I am literally sitting in an apartment now that is just Christmas shit wall to wall because my girlfriend goes mental for Christmas.
Nice. I do too.
Our Christmas tree, we have a real tree. I always put up artificial trees, but my girlfriend will not put up with that, right? And it's my first year living with her, right? She likes
fuck no.
No, she likes the real tree and she likes the smell of the pine and stuff like that. So we not only had to go to get to a Christmas tree lot, but the one that was like a block away from us wasn't good enough for her. So we had to go all the way across town and then no Uber could pick us up because they didn't have the stuff to tie the tree to the roof. So we had to take it in the metro and then walk home. And anyway, we finally got the tree up.
That's kind of a cute story, though.
It's a really nice tree, and we put up all the decorations and stuff like that. It's a mixture of our two decorations, and her decorations are geekier than mine because she has like 3PO and R2D2. I have a Ninja Turtles one though, but
Are you talking about ornaments?
Yeah. So we got the ornaments up though, and whatever, we're doing our thing, and then we hear a crash in the other room, right? And the tree fucking fell over. I think the cat jumped into it or something like. But like, what was sad is she collects ornaments, and like a bunch of her really nice like porcelain ornaments broke. So that was kind of shitty. But anyway, but it's back up now, and it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty nice. And I'm staring at my singing Christmas tree, Douglas fir that I had bought from my parents when I was a kid that they always hated, and it scares my cat now, and it sings. Walk by it, it's motion detected. So the cat will be walking by it, and I go, "Bop, bop, 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 reindeer falls, bop, 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 Santa Claus."
Does it make your cat jump like Luke Skywalker up to the roof?
Eats it, and the cat just stares at it.
That's the one thing I like about cats is when they do that Luke Skywalker jump.
Yeah, and he's got like his back up, like he's in combat mode. Yes, we do celebrate Christmas, though. Yes, we.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just kidding.
I don't celebrate Christmas, though. I mean, I have Jewish friends that celebrate Christmas. I mean,
I have Muslim friends that celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. I think it becomes more of kind of like Thanksgiving. Not many people are celebrating Thanksgiving for its actual origins. And it's more of like they kind of treat it as like family coming together, and really anybody can do that. And I think it's Thanksgiving is a pretty flexible holiday in that sense. Christmas is, pretty narrowed down, exactly what it is, but you can still use it as an opportunity to just be loving and nice and kind and buy gifts for people. And I think that can.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not really, I don't see it in super, I mean, I'm vaguely Christian, I guess I would say I'm a lapsed Catholic. like a lapsed Catholic probably, and my girlfriend's an atheist, but she's Catholic as well. She was baptized Catholic, so I guess she's Catholic. And but we don't really, it's not.
She'll pray when an earthquake starts.
No, she would never. I don't think she would ever really do it. But
not even then.
I would.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm Christian. I'm not what I say is I always say I'm not a very good Christian. I'm just.
Yeah, I'm Christian.
I'm a bad one. I'm not a devout.
I actually pray every night. I've prayed every night in my life.
Yeah, I mean,
my girlfriend laughs at me because she can tell I'm doing it because I do it silently, and then she can see me cross myself, and she kind of like giggles a little bit. She doesn't, she doesn't mock me or anything like that, but she's just not at all religious. And I'm like, I'm like agnostic Christian kind of
I mean, I don't want to go. I don't want to get too
Yeah.
far into religion. I will just say that for me personally, my experience is I have prayed and I have
Oh,
had prayer
sure.
answered. Not so much in, and some people would argue, oh, that's just happen chance and that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's certain things that have happened where I'm just
Yeah, sure.
like that have convinced me, and
Yeah.
not so much like, and it wasn't just a one-off incident. There's been a number of times where like that's happened, and I like to think of like that it brings that kind of comfort level to me, and at least it shows that like it kind of shows a little humility, and I think that's
Yeah,
kind
sure.
of where it comes from for me. We're just like, look, like I need some fucking help here because I don't know
Oh,
what to
yeah,
do,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
and
I have
I think
I've
that's where it comes from.
I've often, I mean, I do. I mean, I pray every night, but it's not like I don't know if I'd call myself, I don't go to church or anything like that. And
I don't either. I don't like church. That's the thing. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't really care for religion that much, but it's kind of like or organized. I don't know. I mean, I'm a weird kind of Christian, I guess.
yeah,
But
I think
I
a
mean,
lot of us are. I'm a weird
yeah,
Christian too, but I
yeah.
am a Christian, and I do believe in Christmas and celebrate it as the
I sure don't go see that fucking
holiday.
Kirk Cameron shit though,
Oh God,
or
no.
God, or I got an email. I got an
Jeez.
email from somebody about.
I'm just
I got a
blasting all over.
I got an email about that Gosnell movie, the anti-abortion film, and I wrote them back. I was like, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. I would not. This is not a legitimate film. I don't consider any of that. It's just anyway, whatever.
Yeah, so I mean that stuff is just so heavy-handed, but
It's mental.
the market for it is crazy.
Which is
Like,
weird though, because you'd think that you could do some decent movies though. I mean, and
I
it's
mean, well,
just
here's the thing. I haven't seen any of them, so I
I
can't say
have no,
whether
I
they're good or
reviewed
not.
them for
But
a while. I used to review them. I used to go see not the really preachy ones, but I would go see like sometimes the Sony Affirm movies, right? Like the ones that Mark Burnett produced. And some of those were okay. Like I
yeah.
kind of liked
Well, there was
Miracles
the
in
one with
Heaven was
Joseph
okay.
Fiennes that was
I
it
I
was
liked that
pretty good.
actually. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm surprised that they haven't like made like I don't know. It's funny. Their big stab, like Mark Burnett's been pretty quiet ever since the Ben-Hur remake, and like that was they took that, which I thought wasn't a terrible movie, but it was a movie that definitely didn't need to be remade, especially not with like CGI and stuff. But they took that so far into the whole Christian aspect because you've seen Ben-Hur, right? The original.
Yeah, oh, yeah, forever ago.
That's a
The
classic,
Charlton
but
Heston one. Yeah.
yeah, but that's like okay. I mean, that was a much more religious time in the 50s, right? And
Sure. Yeah.
it's a fairly religious movie, but this new Ben Hur is way more religious than that one was.
Mm.
And the thing about it is that you had to
Well, they
give the
actually have
audience
Jesus in. Did they have Jesus in the original one?
yes, yes, and
I
it
don't
was
remember.
and the thing is that's really shitty about the new Ben Hur is that it doesn't make any sense. Like the ending of the movie is really because what they do is they try to make it kind of Christiany by having him forgive Masala instead of fighting him. And
Uh-huh.
the thing is, you have to give an audience though for a movie like that, like a villain, and especially because he's been doing villainous stuff. He imprisons and like Ben Hur's
And
sister,
it's
and
Toby Kebbell.
yeah, and gets them like they have and they have leprosy and sends Ben Hur to slavery. And I just don't buy it that the guy could just forgive him like that, and then they're like brothers at the end. And he's like, "Go marry my sister." Like it's just fucking stupid, right? It doesn't. It's something that I think our audience really cannot relate to at all. And but then the original Ben Hur kind of got it right, where it was like he was the architect of his own demise. Kind of it wasn't necessarily that Ben Hur killed him, but he, kind of, it was the guy was the architect of his own demise. That Marcella, I actually really like Ben Hur.
Mm. Interesting.
I like those movies though. I like those epics, like those, like not even for religious reasons. I just,
Well, they don't even. I mean, they barely sell. Not like look at Exodus, which I actually enjoyed to a large degree, but people just they're not into the big epics anymore. Like Ten Commandments, I don't think they could make that today, and it would
well,
be.
they
I
were
think it would just
trying.
be
They
washed
tried to.
over.
Well, they tried to do that, and they tried to do Exodus as well. But it was, the thing is, they can never please the religious audience either because it wasn't religious enough for them, I guess. But Ben Hur was the remake of Ben Hur, and I didn't like the Ben Hur remake. When I said I like Ben Hur, I like the original Ben Hur from the 50s.
Yeah,
I think that
it's
I
been a
like
long time since I've seen it.
I have it on Blu-ray. I like the pageantry of those movies, and they're kind of fun to watch, you know. But I
I
mean, I
like
like
the old effects too. I really appreciate the old
Oh yeah,
effects.
well,
You know, I mean, we're so spoiled today. Like, whenever people complain about CGI, I'm always like, Jesus Christ, you know how lucky you are to have what we have, and just imagine what it's going to be just 10 years from now. It's going to be fucking mind blowing. It just keeps getting better and better. But there's something about them getting creative and doing the best they can. It's almost like sweeted films in a sense, which is kind of great. Like the Jason and Argonauts and like all these, all the
stop motion
Harryhausen
is
stuff.
great.
Like it's just great, awesome shit. Like
I met Ray Harryhausen. I met him. We at Fantasia years ago, just before he died. Just before he died, he came to town. And he showed like his personal 35 millimeter print of Jason and the Argonauts. And
dude's
what was really, he was actually really funny, and he gave a great speech. And what was really cool is he brought with him the original shell from the King Kong figure that was made.
Oh wow,
Willis O'Brien. He brought it with. That was pretty impressive to see. But
I'd love to have one of the Jason and the Argonauts skeletons.
Oh, sure. I like that movie a lot. But in the original Ben-Hur, though, the chariot chase was all real, though. That was what was great about it. Like, they did that shit for real.
Yeah. But I mean, I just in general, like the different things that they had to do, like the painted backdrops and all that.
I love that, though.
I love that
matte paintings. I find that's kind of a lost art. It's funny. I was talking to somebody about the movie FX the other day. Brian Brown.
Brian Brown, yeah.
And I was just saying, I feel like they couldn't remake effects now because it all hinged on the fact that it was practical effects, right? Like fire effects and makeup effects and stuff like that. And it was and forced perspective effects, and you couldn't do that now because I feel like if he was to go after an effects artist, it'd just be some, computer guy, Oh, it'd be Chris Hemsworth in Black Hat.
Oh, Black Hat.
So what would you like to talk about today, Paul?
Well, we got a few interesting things, and we'll also discuss a lot of the movies that are coming out this holiday season. I think we've seen. Have you seen Bumblebee? You haven't seen that yet, right?
I see it. I see it on Monday night.
Or Monday. Okay, but we have a whole bunch of other ones.
Hearing good things, though. I'm hearing very good things.
Oh yeah, most people are saying it's good. So be it. I'm just
find a lot of the people that have seen it though are those like early critics that tend to be overly effusive. Also they get privileged access. But they also get like privileged access, so they all kind of like, are expected to like it in a weird way, or not necessarily completely. I don't know. It's not that they're not trustworthy, but it's just, I find that it's not that they'll give a bad movie a good review. I don't think they would do that, but it's sometimes they tend to be overly positive, they're giving a 9 on 10 to something that's really like a 7 on 10, or something like that, not like not talking about you, Paul.
I gave a 9 on 10 to Aquaman.
I believe that you enjoyed it as much as you say you did, though.
Well, I mean,
I may not agree with you, but if you were honest in your review, though, then it's fine.
Well, you'd have to read the review, but
I did read the review.
Definitely an explanation for what my scores. And the truth is, if we broke our scores down, it would probably be more like a 8.5, 8.7. Yeah. But I just rounded it up to a 9 because I was like, well, I'll just call it a 9, But I didn't want to call it an 8 because the truth is, I enjoyed it that extra level for me as a comic fan. So I was like, I'm gonna call it a 9.
It's just the problem is we get tied too much to our scores. We've talked about this many times before, and it's just
hate it. I hate that I even have to think about it that much.
My opinion changes on stuff too. Like it goes up and down a notch. Like
oh yeah. Same for me. I gave Wonder Woman a 10 on 10, and I don't think I would give Wonder Woman a 10 on 10 today. I'd probably give it an 8 or 9. I think that's probably what I would knock it. I don't think it would be a 10 on 10. But I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, which one do I like better? And I was like, I actually like Aquaman better. And I gave that a 9 on 10. So I
was thinking of my favorite movies of the year, and I have some movies of the year that were in there that were like 8 on 10s. And then I look back and there were 9 on 10s that didn't make the list, So it's all kind of depends on the moment,
Yeah. Well, we will get into that here shortly. But first, we're going to talk about The Punisher returning next month on Netflix for season 2. And then
probably nothing
to be a cancellation. Everybody's just waiting for that hammer to fall. Mm-hmm. And it's very sad.
Well, Netflix is just getting out of the Marvel business, and it makes sense to me because
Marvel's getting out of the Netflix business.
I'm hearing though that there was just a story that came out today where it was like a woman who plays on Daredevil said that apparently Marvel wanted to continue with their series and it was Netflix that pulled the plug. But I think Netflix kind of sees the writing on the wall and Disney's going to be a big competitor for them. I mean, I mean, they just put out the cast for The Mandalorian, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's nuts. I mean, they're assembling a really top-notch cast, right? Like Pedro Pascal, Nick Nolte, Werner Herzog, Carl Weathers, amazing. I mean, they've got, it is a really good cast, and they're putting together these kind of, if they're going to bring things up, like if they're going to make like A-level shows and stuff, then they're going to be a serious competitor to Netflix. So I can understand why Netflix is maybe getting out of it. And I think it's almost mutually beneficial too. If, the thing is if they went over to Disney and started doing their shows on Disney Plus, because then, it's under Marvel's control and it's all kind of, but it'll be toned down, I feel, though. If it's on Disney Plus, it won't be heavy
that's
like
the
it is
biggest
now.
problem. How do you you can't do a toned down. There's no PG-13 Punisher.
Yeah, but they're also going to own like a 60% stake in Hulu, though. And I've read that they were willing to put like the darker stuff on Hulu, maybe.
Why Hulu? Fuck Hulu. Hulu
Like
sucks.
Hulu, I've heard is going worldwide as soon as the Disney
Hulu's
merger.
boring.
I don't have Hulu because we don't have it in Canada.
They don't have anything cool on Hulu. What do they have that's on Hulu?
I have no idea. We don't have it. I don't have.
They ain't
I
got
don't
shit.
have
But I mean, you're not missing anything. Like your life is going on just fine without it. You don't even need it. Anyways, I'm very much looking forward to season 2. I was a little hot and cold on season 1, but there were certain aspects that I really enjoyed, and I thought the action was really top notch. But I think it's just a shame that these are kind of like the death throes. Like we'll get another season of Jessica Jones because that was already went into production and it was happening. So, and that'll be that. Like Jessica Jones will close out the Netflix Marvel era, unless something happens that reverses it or something. But
yeah, I don't know.
it's too bad. It's I really people are just now catching up on. Some people are just finishing Daredevil season 3, and everybody has been like, "Wow, this is just amazing, great season, the best of them all." And that's it. It's the book is closed. It's a really sad.
I'm not sure
not
what's gonna
sad
happen.
like I'm gonna lose any sleep, but
I'm not sure what's gonna happen with Punisher, but I feel like at least Daredevil and Jessica Jones will turn up again somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Daredevil is a staple Marvel character, and he keeps popping back up for a reason. He's a very popular character, and
people seem to like Charlie Cox too, so I would be surprised. Kristen Ritter as well. Not Kristen, Kristen Ritter.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. It's it feels like it's an end of an era, and I guess we'll see maybe how they pop up again. When I guess we'll see. But so, anyways, enjoy the Punisher season 2. You probably likely won't be a season 3. So, moving on the Marvel front, we'll talk real quick about this because I think we can blast through it. But Scott Derrickson is returning to direct Doctor Strange 2. So you have that to look forward to if that's your bag.
I mean, the first one was fine, and I think he did about as good a job as it merited. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they've been saying that they wanted to elevate Doctor Strange to another level, and I don't know. It seems to me like a second tier character, but who knows? Derrickson, I have no problem with Derrickson as a director. He's been getting in a lot of hot water on Twitter, it seems, because he's been he said something that actually made sense to me, where he says that if you're a critic that has like a relationship with a content creator, it's kind of hard for you to review their work. And I mean, I agree with that to a degree. That's why I don't have any friends. But it's this kind of I think he's a perfectly decent, perfectly serviceable director. I like Sinister. What else did he do? Exorcism of Emily Rose. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
he's fine. I mean, it's like a mid-level.
It is. It's to me like Doctor Strange is on the same level as like Black Panther.
I like Black Panther a lot more than Doctor Strange, but I found that Doctor Strange was kind of assembly line Marvel.
So was Black Panther.
No, it's not.
What makes Black Panther better?
Well, It's the imagination that went into it, and the fact that they're all black. It really does make a difference because it's it gives it different flavor, and it makes the movie more important. Look, I mean, if you had done the exact same movie and they were all white, yeah, people probably wouldn't have, it wouldn't seem so exceptional. But it is kind of culturally significant, and I think we can't
I
really
don't discount the cultural significance, but
so I think it's hard for me
to
though.
the
It's hard for
aesthetic
me.
version.
It's hard for me, and I think it's hard for a lot of people to kind of separate that cultural milestone that it represented from the movie itself. And I don't think you
I have no
necessarily
problem
can. I
with
think
that.
they're tied together.
The cultural significance is important, but as a
Very,
movie,
yeah.
it's very basic. As a movie, it's very much like
Yeah, but
Doctor
you could say that about a lot of movies though that were like big cultural milestones. If you boil them down, there's
Like
nothing.
which one?
Well, okay, like a good example, and I mean, and I love this movie too. Don't get me wrong. Is Top Gun? I've seen Top Gun about 100 times, but I look back at it mostly.
Well, what's the cultural significance of Top Gun?
Well, that was a hugely important film when it came out in the 80s. I mean, it gave you the soundtrack, just took over the world, and
But it
people
didn't have a cultural significance.
It had a huge cultural significance to just America.
Pop culture significance,
Yes.
maybe. But like Black Panther, I think goes into more of a socio-political kind of thing. I think it's a very different. Anyways, so Doctor Strange 2 is coming. I will say I'm not really excited for a Doctor Strange 2. It's like, oh yeah, I'll see it, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. It'd probably be fun.
And I like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I think he's really good as the character. But Doctor Strange, like, I don't know, like even as a character in the comics, he's never like wowed me. I don't read the Doctor Strange comics regularly. I've read a few. He's just not a character that like blows me away, and I'm not interested in really much of his story at all, to be honest with you. Like I actually prefer Black Panther as a character over Doctor Strange. I think he's a more interesting character, and he also has more like more action. He's more involved. He's like more physical, and I like that aspect too. I think that's kind of speaks to the medium itself. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm a little what's the right word to say? I don't want to say hesitant, doubtful maybe about what comes after Endgame. Because the fact that you're more than likely you're going to be losing some of your top tier characters, I'm wondering how or if that will be enough to keep people invested.
I mean, we'll see.
I've seen it in the comics too. In the comics, they've done things where they've switched up teams and done all this, and it always backfires. Always. Every single fucking time. And you know what they always return to is the original three. Every single time. I've been reading these comics for 30 years. I've been through every iteration, and every time they try to disrupt Cap, Iron Man, and Thor, it always comes back to them. Every single fucking time. It may take a couple years, but it always goes back to that because sales fucking drop. Things are all fucked up. Your fan base that are like invested in these characters is like, dude, where's the people that I love? And they have to bring them back. They killed off Captain America. They fucking made Thor a woman. They killed Iron Man. And guess what? They're all back. They do it all the time. So I don't know what they're going to do after Endgame. And, everybody's like, oh, so-and-so's going to die. This is going to be it for them, blah, blah, blah. But the other thing that you also have to face is mortality with these characters. Like, because these are being played by actual human beings. They're not drawn on a page where you can resurrect them and bring them back, unless they were played by a different actor. So that's another challenge that the MCU will have. And I'm just very interested and, again, a little leery of how that's all going to play out. And a Doctor Strange sequel isn't exactly like, oh man, look at that lineup. Not exactly dying for that. And even though it's a little too late, now they've got a Black Widow movie coming, which it's cool. And I think that could be a really good movie, but apparently some people that were up for the job, or at least brought in to discuss it, had some not so nice things to say about Marvel's.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically the fact that they said that they would handle the action sequences, right? And that is kind of disappointing to hear. I mean, I guess to a degree, I mean, they have a way that they do things too, but you'd like to think that whoever's directing it will get to put their staple on the action scenes. And it makes me think that one of the things that Black Panther, that you complained about with Black Panther was that you found that the action scenes weren't up to par with something like Creed. And I mean, that could be it.
They
It
weren't
could
up
be
to
that,
par with other Marvel films, though.
but it could be that that maybe the B-list Marvel choreographers took over Black Panther while the A-list choreographers were working on Infinity War. I mean, those movies came out pretty close together, right? And then maybe that's kind of how they work. I mean, if you look at Doctor Strange too, Doctor Strange didn't have fantastic fight scenes either. It's kind of
well, Doctor Strange is a lot of just hand motions.
But they tend to go though. They tend to do that though.
I think Michael Jackson is the spirit of Michael Jackson is the fight choreographer for Doctor Strange.
But there's the A level. There's the A level Marvel movies and the B level Marvel movies, right? And I don't think that. I think at the time before it came out, probably Black Panther was considered B level. Now, of course, if there's a Black Panther 2, it's fucking A level, triple A level. Because it's massive.
I mean, I hope I look forward to seeing I'd be more excited for Black Panther 2 than a Doctor Strange 2. But I do hope that they really improve upon those aspects that they ultimately I feel failed on. I mean, there's you can see screen grabs from that end battle, which should have been the fucking shit, and it looks like it. I hate when people say it, but it's true. It looks like a Sony PlayStation from the fucking early 2000s. I'm just like, why does this look so bad? I remember watching it in the theater, I was baffled. I was like, this is Marvel. What's going on here? Why is this so awful?
I really think that's the thing, that they have their B squad and their A squad.
Well, I think they
A squad was working on Infinity War.
I think they were a little overly ambitious for that end fight too. They're like, hey, and then he's gonna fall into this massive cave where there's a train, and they're gonna fight on this thing, and it's like, maybe Coogler wasn't quite ready for that.
I don't know if you can even really blame him, but I'd think that Marvel should have given him an extra $10 million though. They could have definitely.
It always falls on the director.
How well, not necessarily.
Yeah,
Lucretia Martel, though, that was going to be the woman who did Black Widow, but now it's Kate Shortland, who I actually really liked a movie she did called Berlin Syndrome. So,
oh yeah, with our girl Teresa Palmer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, my thing is, I think that this director, what's her name again? Where is it?
Lucretia
Martel. I think that she kind of took that out of context. I think what they were probably telling her is hey, what we really want from you is somebody that can get into the head of this character and make something great. And because she's not an action director, I think they probably told her we can help you with the action. And by take care of it, meaning, I think she totally took it out of context. I wasn't there for the meeting. This is just
we weren't there. We don't necessarily.
But I think probably what happened is they're probably hey, they're probably saying you don't need to worry about the action. We'll help you. We'll do, we have stunt teams. We have the money, the assets. We have all this stuff. We'll help you with all that. What we want you to focus on is the character. And I think really that's what they were trying to say. And maybe she was disappointed with that. Doesn't mean that she wasn't going to be able to do any action scenes or anything like that. But it was hey, we can help you if you're not up to it. And the thing is, you're hiring all of these filmmakers out of obscurity in a sense, indie people that aren't tested and proven in that. And so people say, well, they should just give them a chance. I'm like, well, okay, if somebody's giving you $100 million, what kind of risk are you going to take there? This is an investment protection. You're not going to pay that kind of money for a filmmaker to make a, top tier MCU movie and just gamble on the fight scenes. Those things need to fucking rock. So I guarantee you that's probably what happened. And this director, she took it as a slight. And I think it sounds like she took it the wrong way, because then she goes on to say that she hates Marvel movies and that they're just so horrible to watch and that there's laser fights. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason you weren't hired. You don't get this shit. As soon as you start going into that, it's kind of oh, okay, I see. So you're just bitter that you didn't get the job. And she basically broke NDA by even talking about this stuff. So I think that this is just kind of her middle finger to Marvel for not hiring her. That's my take on all of this.
Who knows?
Anyways, I thought it was interesting. And I think a lot of people are oh, see, and that's all you could never tell. The fight choreography in the Marvel movies is so boring. I'm like, are you sure? Did you see Winter Soldier? It's some of the best fight choreography in the last fucking decade. So try again. Now, Black Panther, we can argue on that one. because the fight choreography sucks. Okay. Moving right along, Christopher. I could tell you see over there. Another superhero that appears to be returning to the big screen soon is Chris's personal favorite, the Toxic Avenger.
You know what? I've never seen a Toxic Avenger movie. I don't think I've ever actually sat through I don't think I've actually ever sat through a Troma movie. The way I'm most familiar with Toxic Avenger is that they had there was a Saturday morning cartoon based on Toxic Avenger that used to air that I used to like. But the Toxic Avenger movies, though, I've seen parts of them. I'm just not a big Troma guy, and I like what's his name, the guy who runs Troma. He comes to Fantasia. Oh, I forget his name. Lloyd Kaufman. He comes to Fantasia and he's got his truck and stuff. And they definitely have like a pretty strong cult following, but it's never really been my kind of thing. That silly, like, it's supposed to be bad. It's like, not really. I don't really like that when you make a movie and you're like, oh, it's supposed to be shit. And it's
I love
it's just
the Troma. I love that junk. It's fun. The thing about, and this is the interesting thing about the Toxic Avenger thing, is that it's not Troma that's making it. It's Legendary, which has acquired it.
Which is like, what are they going to do? They're going to make like $100 million version of it,
Well, and see, this is the tricky part. So we're going to get in my DeLorean here. We're going to go back to the 80s when I first saw Toxic Avenger.
Gotta get back in time.
So I was living in Florida.
Gotta get back in time.
And this was before the days of internet and all this. I know it's crazy. I'm so super old. Oh my God. But we had to get in our car and drive to this thing called a video store. And in this video store, you would walk in. Video. And would walk in and they would have all the boxes for these movies, basically the cover, like a little.
I remember the cover art for Toxic Avenger.
So they would have them, and then if the video was in, then they'd have the cassette in an actual case that would sit behind the movie, the box art, and then you could grab it and check it out. If there was no video behind it, that meant that they were all checked out and you're shit out of luck and you're going to have to pick something else.
I would just wait around for the movie if it was something.
Oh my God. I was totally a stalker.
It's been hours.
It's a whole other world that a lot of you guys never had to experience. Yeah. And
if I wanted to see a movie that was just out on video that I really wanted to see, I'd spend hours waiting for it.
Oh man. I used to work at a video store, so I know what it's like. People would like wait and they'd be like, they'd have their minds set on getting a certain movie. It's always a new release. And they would just wait by the bin when people dropped it. And they would even go as far as before the people dropped the movie into the bin, they would confront the person like, oh, do you have so-and-so? Do you have this movie? And they'd be like, yeah. And then the person would like take it, like, I want to check this out. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, it was so annoying, so fucking obnoxious. But anyways, this is where I went. And Chris at some point.
I worked at a video store too. I worked at Blockbuster. Yeah. The last gaps of Blockbuster, I guess, in the early 2000s. It was funny. Yeah, it was. I look back at that fondly.
Yeah, me too. I had fun with it. Yeah, the most fun thing about renting videos from a video store was how awful most people's tastes are in movies and how uninformed most people are. Like, I would have people grab like these B-grade piles of shit. Like, I just knew.
I'd always warn people against them. They wouldn't listen.
Yeah, like I knew it was good and I knew it was shit. And people come up and I remember they'd be like, is this any good? And I'd be like, sometimes if I just didn't want to deal with it or have the conversation, I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I haven't seen it. I hear it's good. But a lot of times if I felt up to having the debate or the argument or whatever, I'd be like, no, it's not. And they'd be like, well, why not? And I'd be like, it's just not. It's not a good movie. It's not. It didn't even go to theaters. And they'd be like, oh, really? Like, people just don't know. It's not even a question of them being stupid. They just don't know. They're just like, they have their lives and, they're just looking for a little entertainment. They're not like fucking invested in it like I am, which is fine. Not everybody has to be. I don't watch any sports either. And there's people that like fucking live their lives around sports, and that's fine. But I lived my life around movies, so I knew all that shit.
I worked at two video stores, right? One video store I got fired from, and then the other one I got hired from shortly afterwards. And the one I got fired from was more of an independent store, and it was because I made it a point, I was a very big movie fan, so people would walk up and I wouldn't necessarily allow them to take a bad movie, right? Like I would try. I would. It's not that I wouldn't allow them, but I would try to dissuade them from renting it, right? Like I remember Battlefield Earth came out, and I was really trying to encourage people not to rent it, right? And they got pissed off at me for that. Anyway, I ended up getting fired, and
You got fired because you wouldn't let
it
people
was
rent
one of the reasons. Anyway, but then my hardcore cocaine addiction probably didn't help. No, I'm just no,
You were
no.
snorting lines off the back.
Yeah. Not that, but anyway, but
Right off of John Travolta's alien face, you're like, don't rent shit.
Anyway, I ended up in between. I ended up working at a bank for a while, and then after that, kind of
fired from there after you tried.
I didn't get fired, but I left that job, and then I went to work. I was a young guy. I went to work at Blockbuster though when I was about like maybe 19, 20 or something like that, and they loved me at Blockbuster. They were actually, considering big corporation and stuff like that, you'd think they would be pretty heartless. And in our training, they told us, oh, don't tell people it's a bad movie. Let them make up their own minds. My managers were really cool, and they were actually up for me telling people if movies were bad or not, because it was good customer service. So my job was, they used to have me come in sometimes on Friday or Saturday nights. I'd do one of the two, just I almost able to make my own schedule, and I would just come in for a couple hours and I'd walk the aisles, and I'd basically just if people had questions about movies, I'd be like, oh, that's a good movie, and I'd give them my little review, my little spiel, my little 2 cents, and then I'd help people find stuff, and I remember at the time, what was cool is that it was when Matrix Reloaded came out on DVD, and I really didn't care for either of the Matrix sequels, and I was kind of
they're pretty bad.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't like them, and and I remember, but anyway, but those were very popular though, and they were being taken out a lot. And then somebody would come up to me and they'd want to rent like a Matrix sequel or something like that, and I'm like, well, it's not in, but why don't you try this movie, which is a bit like Matrix? And I gave them Equilibrium, and they really liked it.
Yeah,
And a lot
Equilibrium was awesome.
Nobody had heard of it though, because it went direct to DVD, and everybody was kind of, people were kind of into it, and to the point that our store had to order a couple extra copies. The other one that was my go-to that I used to give people all the time was The Salton Sea, because that was another movie.
I love The Salton Sea.
That was another.
That's such a great movie.
Yeah, that was another movie that was totally like obscure.
So essentially, you were doing my column at Blockbuster.
And my column,
which is now your column.
Our column.
It's
our column. But anyway, yeah, kind of. And it was funny, and it was weird because the West Island is a small place. Everybody kind of knew me around there, so it'd be like, hey, Chris, what's good to read today? And it was fun.
That's so funny. I think that's like a good like testing ground, and it doesn't exist anymore for people.
It does, and it was nice, and it was always cool. Like sometimes these places, the good video stores, would always kind of put a premium on having like a knowledgeable person working for them. So
for sure.
So that video store was kind of cool because there were a lot of people that worked there that were pretty smart about movies. My manager for a while was my buddy Chris Paps. And he's a big movie fan too, and I remember we used to have a good time hanging out together, and but the thing is, I would get sometimes very defensive if somebody didn't like something that I recommended, and I would get like not so I remember once I sent some people home with the movie Elephant, which was in hindsight a really big mistake because it's very much an acquired taste, and and these
that's a tough watch too.
Yeah, and these people were definitely not like the Elephant type of people. It was some like burly guy and his girlfriend.
Did you send him home with the last days as well?
This guy was calling me bro the whole time, and I was like, "Hey, bro, what do you think, bro?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Elephant." And I don't know why I sent them home with Elephant. And then the guy came back and he's like, "Hey, man, this fucking movie fucking sucked." And he slammed it down on the counter, and I remember being really offended by that. And I was like, "Yeah, well, you can't rent here anymore." And he's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because you have shitty taste in movies." And he's like,
this was at Blockbuster?
Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, I kind of had my back against the wall." And then he goes, "Yeah, all right, let me talk to your manager." I'm like, "Fine." So I got my buddy Paps, and then he comes up to the cash, and he goes, "This guy says I can't rent here anymore." And he goes, "Chris, explain yourself." And I said he didn't like Elephant. And then Chris just looks at him. Chris just looks at the guy and he goes, "Get the fuck out."
No way. That's so awesome.
Don't come back.
You couldn't do that here. You couldn't do that.
No. We would couldn't. I didn't. I didn't give a fuck.
You guys
About
would
that
both
job.
be fired as fuck.
Oh, I know. We
Yes, that's a great
know.
story.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
it was funny. He was really pretentious about letting people movies. We had like a little. We had, God bless her. We had this person who worked for the store that they were in this program where they would hire, special needs people to come in and help and stuff like that. And we had this really lovely special needs girl that would help us, but she loved putting away the movies, right? And and God bless her, she couldn't really read really well, so she would just kind of put stuff away at random. She had like Down syndrome and stuff like that, so it was pretty serious, and she would just put the stuff away. But stuff was hard to find sometimes in the video store. But we liked her, so we kind of like let her do whatever she wanted, and it was kind of so.
Put the movies wherever you want.
No, it was kind of like sometimes we'd follow her around to make sure she was okay. She was very sweet, and she liked movies too. So it was a love. She was a lovely girl. But it was funny though. Yeah, so a lot of times stuff would be hard to find. So we had a little to make up for this. We had like a little because we didn't want to hurt her feelings. So we had like a little cabinet where we would put some of like some of the best movies, just the most popular like catalog rentals. But this guy Paps, he was so pretentious about it that he wouldn't let people rent them unless they passed his taste test. So if the person wouldn't appreciate the movie, they wouldn't get into the drawer.
Wow.
So often people would come up and they'd be like, "Oh, we want to find, we were looking for Goodfellas, but it looks like it's out." And he goes, "Oh no, we have it."
You just have to pass my test.
Yeah, we have it.
Oh my God.
But
you guys are fucking terrible.
Yeah, we were pretty bad.
But I love it.
But it was, I do look back at that very nostalgically though. And I loved working for that place too. And I remember when I started my job there, I was kind of really shitty about it because I was like, oh, minimum wage job, I'm going to hate it. And I'm going to leave by the time I remember it was like the Italian Job had just come out in theaters. And I was like, by the time we'd just gotten the DVD of Italian Job. Like by the time this gets to like the old movie section, I'm not going to be here anymore. And then I was there for like 2 years. Because it ended up being a really fun job, but it was, and there were great people. I worked with a really nice staff of people, so I had a great time working there. But it was just kind of, it is sad though because you look at people now and they're not going to have
they can't have that experience. It's an experience in a time capsule, and I'm thankful for it. It teaches you a lot. It teaches you a lot about people's taste in movies.
Yeah. I mean, I look back to it, and I learned a lot of good things back then. I mean, I think that part of the reason I do teaching a little bit is because of that, because, we had a lot of special needs people that worked for us, and that was great because that gave us some responsibility, like to how to kind of empathize with somebody that that wasn't quite that had handicaps and that had special needs, and so you could help the person out, you could really kind of work with them and get to know them, and and it was it was a really great thing, I think, for the people that worked there for both sides, for the handicapped person, it helped them socialize them. For us, it helped us have a little bit of empathy for people, so it was And it's kind of sad that kind of thing doesn't really exist anymore, because everybody's a little bit more closed off, and it's too bad because we loved the people that worked with us. We took great care of them. We used to drive them home afterwards, and it was always kind of, nobody was ever, suspicious that anything was going on. Everybody was very kind of open-hearted and and kind there, and it was they were nice people, and it was a nice thing to do, and it was a nice job, and I look back at it now and it's a shame that they don't really have that anymore, because it's like you still get people working minimum wage jobs at like McDonald's and stuff like that, but it's a different kind of environment because it's very, very, very high stress at times, because I worked there when I was a kid and there's food involved and it could be dangerous, and it's not like, but a job at like Blockbuster was kind of a nice, who doesn't love movies, and it was a little bit more relaxed, It's too bad. It's a lost art. Not a lost art.
It's
a lost way of life, and I used to love just bumming around the video store for hours when I was a teenager.
For sure. It's just good to be surrounded with that stuff, and
being out and talking to people, I mean, instead of just home at your computer on IMDb, it was nice.
Yes. I would do it. I mean, I was the same. I would talk to people. They'd ask me, about certain movies, and I was a total fucking, I was a burgeoning movie nerd,
Oh, me too.
And it was great to be able to do that. So it's sad. But anyways, back to my story about my video store. We really diverged. So I went to a video store in the 80s when the Toxic Avenger came out. And they had the cutout of Toxic Avenger. You know, like the big cardboard cutouts that they have
mop,
the character. Yeah. So that's there. And my mom, this actually perfectly segues into this. My mom didn't know much about movies at all. So she would come in and she'd be like, so like she talked to the video store guy. I remember he's like this big, like fat dude that was like pretty chill and cool. He was like, he's probably just a big movie nerd. And he was like a younger guy. And he always seemed to know, and they'd be like, be like, hey, what's a good thing to rent? What's new, And he'd be like, oh, you're this. And I remember he recommended Toxic Avenger to my mom for me and my brother. So this is the 80s. We're probably like, 10, 11, something like that. And he's like, oh, Toxic Avenger's great. So he's like, this is like you recommending Elephant. The guy, he's like, so he tells my mom, like, oh, Toxic Avenger's great. You should get it. Take that. So she rents Toxic Avenger for me and my brothers. Now you haven't seen it, so you don't know why
it's
Troma.
It's Troma, so I could imagine that it was probably.
I mean, nudity, sex, but the violence and the gore, for me at that age, I had never seen anything like it.
Well, you probably loved it.
Well, honestly, it shocked me. Like, so there's a scene in Toxic Avenger where there's like this, like these group of kids, teenagers that are just complete violent, sociopathic assholes, and they're the ones that actually turn Toxic Avenger into Toxic Avenger because they bully him and he falls into toxic waste and becomes Toxic Avenger. But anyways, to set them up, they like just commit murder around town, and there's this kid getting on his bike to go on a bike ride, and his mom's like, okay, Billy, have a good bike, and it's at night, so like, what the fuck you letting your kid ride his bike at night, you dumb bitch? But anyway, she's like, okay, Billy, have a good ride. She's got his safety helmet, and he's like this innocent kid. He's like, thanks, Mom, blah, blah, blah. And he's like riding his bike. And so these teens, they're like driving around in their car, and they're like, oh, let's play the death game or whatever. I don't remember what the fuck it was called. And it's like they score points for people they hit. And so they see this kid on the bike, and they fucking hit him, right? And they run him over. And they're like, yeah, all right, 10 points. And then the girl's like, no, he's still moving. So they back up the car and they run over his fucking head, and his like whole head just splatters with brains and everything just splattering all over the road. And as like a 10, 11-year-old kid, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I realized this day and age, you can just go to YouTube and watch people be fucking murdered. But there was actually a time and place where there wasn't an internet and you could look up that shit, nor should you want to. But here it is, like in this movie. And I was just like, what the fuck? And it definitely, like, I feel like it unlocked something in me or broke something, one or the other. And I was just like, what am I seeing? And then there's a scene where Toxic Avenger is like fucking this blind chick that he takes home. And he's like on top of her, and he's like, and you see his like butt bouncing up and down as he's fucking her. And he's wearing like his burnt out tutu that he was wearing when he got turned into Toxic Avenger. And it's just like all these things colliding in my brain.
It's funny. A lot of people that I've talked to from that era, I never watched them, but they used to like those videos, Faces of Death.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember. We watched Faces of Death when we were kids. We would rent it.
Yeah, with the Twilight Zone, the movie footage.
I don't know what that I mean, but there was a lot of stuff in there. Like you'd see people like suicides and things.
You know the Twilight Zone, the movie story, though, right?
Was it the one where he gets?
But basically, John Landis. He was.
Oh, with the dude that got his head chopped off.
Yeah, Vic Morrow.
Yeah, Vic Morrow.
The plane, the helicopter, and it went.
Is that in Faces of Death?
Yep.
The actual footage?
Yes, some of it. Oh. You can actually find that footage on YouTube. That footage is widely available on YouTube.
Oh wow!
It's very disturbing to watch.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's funny. He's like holding two kids when it happened.
Yeah. They died, and they were there illegally. Yeah, and it was what's really fucked up is how nobody involved got punished except for like the guys who, these below the line workers whose fault it was.
Not Landis. It was Spielberg.
It was Landis was the director on duty that night because it was a multiple director movie. Mm-hmm. But Spielberg was the producer, him and Frank Marshall. Okay. Yeah. So they had some responsibility because the kids were working illegally. But it's funny what happened on the set of that movie though. If it happened now, Landis
would be over.
He'd be in prison. He'd be in prison for 30 years. And I feel that Spielberg probably would have gone to prison too. Just the fact that he was involved, and the fact that they somehow maybe knew that these kids were on set working illegally. It's funny, that would have ended so many careers. That thing. I mean, Spielberg would not be Spielberg like he is now if that.
Well, there was that movie they
happened.
were making on the Allman Brothers.
Yeah,
where
I
the
know.
girl
And that
got
guy
killed on the train.
Yeah,
That dude went to prison, and then I guess he's out now.
he's got a ban. He's got a ban from the DGA to
Yeah.
direct. He can't serve as a director, like a lifetime ban, and it's messed up though. And there's a book about the Twilight Zone, the movie accident, and he went on trial. Like John Landis actually went on trial, and it was fucked up, man. And it's crazy though that he was able to just kind of go on, because if that happened now, he would have gone to prison.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't think he didn't intentionally.
evidence.
He didn't intentionally.
I mean, if he went to trial, so I mean, it's not like.
But he didn't. But the thing is, though, like the guy who was piloting the helicopter and stuff like that, these guys were thrown under the bus, I think, and it was anyway. There's all kinds of stories about it.
Oh yeah. Well, in a situation like that, the person with the most money is the one that's gonna fucking be able to fight that fight.
If you went down that rabbit hole though and look at that story, and what's messed up too is the fact that they released the movie with Vic Morrow's part, intact for the most part, and that's just really strange. That would never happen now.
I don't think that would happen today. No.
Oh no, I really feel like if that happened now, that Landis would have probably gone to prison. It would have at least ended his career.
Yeah, perhaps. So, anyways,
before
I guess the biggest point on the Toxic Avenger thing is, it was so hardcore with like the sex, violence, and all that other stuff. It's like such a mainstay of it. I don't see how the fuck you make a Toxic Avenger movie and make it anything close to resembling what made it compelling to begin with, which is part of the Troma gore lore. If that's not there, what the fuck is Toxic Avenger going to be?
If Toxic Avenger is legendary, it's going to be PG-13, and it's probably going to take place in China. Well, that's what
Toxic
Legendary
Avenger
does.
will be Chinese. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a terrible fucking idea. If it can't be traumatized, then what's the fucking point?
Now, before we move on, Paul, I'm sorry, I really have to pee.
Go ahead.
I had a
go
cup of coffee. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back. Oh,
all right. Go take a break.
At this portion of the Queen's American Goodwill Tour is complete, and we can all take pride that the Queen has chosen our sixth visit. Indeed, it is for all the people who will be able to share in the celebration, especially exciting will be the Queen's public appearances. We also would like to...
Whoops.
So let's see here. Your bladder is empty, so we can talk. I want to talk about, before we get into movies that are coming out. We'll kind of do a little rundown here. I want to talk about this Variety's worst of list. That is a collaboration between Peter DeBruge and Owen Gleiberman, who I used to read, but not that I have much of a choice. When he worked for Entertainment Weekly for the longest time.
Yeah, me too. I even read his biography.
I feel like he's fallen off the mark here. I don't know what the fuck's going on with him, but this fucking worst of list. I mean, there's some obvious ones in here like Gotti and Life Itself and London Fields that everybody seemed to dislike. But Owen Gleiberman's got some really weird ones on there. He's got Hunter Killer, which I'm sure is probably not that good, but worst of the year?
Well, and Disney's Christopher Robin. Like, I do not get that at all. I mean, the CGI is absolutely amazing. And he's talking about how shitty it is, and it just doesn't make any sense, And And also, you know, the miseducation of Cameron Post, you know, the movie that won the grand jury prize at Sundance about LGTB deprogramming, you know, and like this, that's a bad movie compared to him, you know. I mean, and who is he to really even judge the merits of that movie too?
Making out with another chick, and that's.
But how is he even supposed to be the one to kind of, you know, I get it if you don't like it, you can give it a bad review, but calling it the worst movie of the year, and first of all, it's a movie about LGBTQ. He's not any of those things. So why is he the one who can say like if it's realistic or not, you know? And it's just kind of, I don't know.
Well, and then like Death of a Nation is kind of an obvious. That's almost like a political one.
Well, that's not
like,
a real movie though. That's
I know,
really
it's like it's a documentary that had a limited run. It's almost like
it's not a real movie.
Right.
It's not even on my radar.
Either way, he's picking it out as like to be completely a political thing. Like you could just ignore it. It doesn't even have to exist. Now it's actually, he's putting it on people's radar by even mentioning it. You didn't even realize that, but it's like, nobody really gives a shit about that. There are way worse movies. Why the fuck is The Meg not on any of these people's lists? I don't get it. Like The Meg should be on there. You're talking about worst of the fucking year. Like I want my money back. Fucking The Meg. Give me my fucking money back. Stupid ass movie. But like, here's the thing that really gets me is Peter DeBruge says Avengers Infinity War is one of the worst movies of the year, which is just complete fucking trolling. And it's like, it's essentially, it's like Clint Eastwood's fucking Gran Torino character, you know, get off my lawn fucking attitude. And it's just obvious that, DeBruge just has a very intense personal bias against the MCU films, and that's fine if you don't like those. But when you're trying to speak as a conglomerate, as an organization such as Variety, which is, you know, supposed to be upheld as an esteemed fucking part of our industry in terms of newsworthiness, this is complete fucking hogwash. That's the first time I've said that word out loud in context. But it's just so fucking clown shoes stupid. I can't see it as anything more than trolling. And he's like, where does he say? He's like, okay. First, they blew up an entire planet at the end of Thor and laughed it off. And then came Thanos' snap, which killed half the life in the galaxy. When that happened, I wanted to scream, you can't do that. And not because I care about these characters, but because now we have to wait a year to find out whatever cheap device they use to undo the decimation. Anyways, he just kind of goes in, and then he goes on to say, I know that let's see here. 20 films over 10 years is too many. You can scrub them all as far as this fed up critic is concerned. Snap them fingers. I mean, this is just trolling. Like these movies, whether you love MCU or Marvel movies or DC movies or any comic book movies at all, the truth is you can't deny their success. You can't deny the fact that it's A-list quality that's going into making these, and some fare better than others. But this is just complete trolling on one of the biggest movies of the year. This isn't a Transformers movie where it made lots of money and people are perplexed. In fact, Transformers is about the only example that anybody can ever pull out of their ass whenever you talk about a movie making money that seems to be widely criticized as a bad movie. Everybody always goes to the Transformers, but that's the easiest target they have. Outside of that, people generally go and see these movies and they make money because they love them. Venom isn't killing it at the box office because people are hate watching it. Like, people love these fucking movies.
I mean, there are a lot of movies that, you know, they could call the worst of the year, and I just don't understand why they chose, you know, Avengers Infinity. I mean, they're trying to get attention with that, though. That is absolutely what they're doing. So what's the point?
And it's like I was saying,
and they're getting it too. They're getting.
Oh, they're totally getting it. I mean, I was almost going to consider. I still may having one of our guys write it up this weekend just to kind of highlight, you know, this is the stupidity that's going on out there. Like, you know, it's a conversation topic. And, you know, here's the thing. I guarantee you there's a couple of people that agree with this guy. And that's fine. There's 7.7 billion people on the planet. Like, that's fine. But and in terms of being a news source for our industry, and this is like what they come up with for worst of, there's a lot of fucking movies missing, and there's way too many that don't belong on this list. And it's just
I probably would have put in, the Death Wish remake. I thought that was pretty awful.
I didn't see it. I have it actually on Blue. They sent it to me, but I haven't watched it.
It's just Bruce Willis sleepwalking for 2 hours.
That's like most of his movies now. Sad. Damn, Bruce Willis.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, you need me to shoot this gun? Okay.
Yeah. No, one take. That's it.
No, I'm really tired. Can I just?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. I think that's really fucking stupid, dumb,
and it made you very grumpy.
It's just you destroy any kind of credibility you think you have. You do that, and it's just kind of like it's just not a well thought out. It's like I yell at my kid. I'm like, hey, you're gonna post something. You need to be able to own it and answer for it. And doesn't mean you can't ever change your mind. Doesn't mean you can't ever say you're sorry or whatever. But you just whatever you put out there, you need to be prepared to deal with. I just don't feel like this was really well thought out. I feel like this was just kind of like, it just feels like a gimmick. It's like, I'm putting Infinity War on there. And they're like, really? They're like, yeah. Oh, you just wait. I don't care. And it's almost like a dare risk. Like, I could just see them. I could see old Peter there being very proud of himself for doing it. And it's like, what are you proud of? Saying that you hated a movie that like fucking most people loved? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, Peter. You're done. Your career's over.
I don't know. It's just them trying to get attention and trying to be provocative. People tend to do that on these top 10 lists sometimes, and it's just their movies that really do not belong on the top 10 worst movie list. And I mean, there's things in there that Life Itself is one that definitely belonged on there, but anyway.
Where's like A Wrinkle in Time? Where's like all these other movies that like should have been great and were horrible and like flopped?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they? Nowhere. I mean, Gothi's like an easy target. Come on.
It is a terrible movie though, and also not only that, but the fact is with Gotti, the fact that it's a propaganda vehicle for the Gotti family. So for me, that's kind of makes it a little.
It's got a Pitbull soundtrack.
Well, that makes it very sinister though for me, like compared to anything else, because the Gotti family clearly is trying to rewrite their story, their history with this movie, and it's fucking.
That's like the people that complain about lack of diversity in a movie like Dunkirk. It's like shut the fuck up, you fucking.
You watch Gotti though, and it's like you would never think that these people ever committed a crime. I mean, it's unbelievable.
We're just misunderstood gangsters, man.
Yeah. Oh, Gotti, it was all for his family.
Hey, that guy was an asshole. He had to be.
Yeah.
Killed.
Oh, yeah. Totally. Well, he only kills people in the movie that totally have it coming. And I'll neither confirm nor deny that I killed this person. Like it's just. Oh, anyway.
Well, I remember when that was being primed as a big release too.
Oh, and apparently the Oscar screeners for it going out, which is just apparently, well, because apparently Travolta himself thinks that he gave an amazing performance and really put that movie out and financed a lot of the release and a lot of the campaigning that's going on for it. He's just delusional. It's sad to see him reduced to that.
I mean, I could use that money. Maybe he could just give it to me.
So what else would you like to talk about? Lots of new releases this week that I saw.
Yep. And I saw one of them this week, but we'll save that for last before we go into questions. So let's just get your quick rundown thoughts on some of these. So I know you wanted to talk about the Mule because you saw that, and that's we were talking earlier this week about how it seems like it's just not on the radar at all.
Yeah, it's weird.
A Clint Eastwood movie that's got Bradley Cooper and a crime theme. You think it would be like a high visibility movie? What happened?
Strange. It's strange. I mean, they didn't screen it in Montreal, and they didn't screen it in a lot of places. I think they did a very small junket for it. But it's weird. They didn't send out screeners for it to any of the guilds, so they weren't really positioning it to be an awards movie. And fair enough, I mean, I saw the movie. It's not an awards movie, but I liked it. I thought it was decent. Like I thought it was a lot better than the 1517 to Paris. Look, I mean, for a Clint Eastwood movie, it's doing well too at the box office. He really is still a force to be reckoned with in terms of popularity, because the movie was, to me, it seemed like it was barely advertised, and it still looks like it's going to open with close to $20 million, which is very good.
What? That's
for
crazy.
that kind of movie. Yeah,
that's crazy. There's like no promotion for this movie.
Yeah, he has a lot of muscle, and a lot of fans still. But look, I mean, the Mule has a lot of problems that are very recurrent in Clint Eastwood movies, and for me, it's the technical stuff. It's the fact that he uses the same establishing shot like 5 times in the movie. He just doesn't. I don't still think he really has much of a head for that kind of thing, or even really cares. That's the thing. I don't think he really cares. Some of the process shots are really awful. It's got one of the weirdest things about it is there's like a main character in the movie, one of the cartel guys, who just disappears in the last act. I think he must have been killed off, but they probably left the scene on the cutting room floor and they don't explain it. Eastwood in the movie, in the trailer, he's got his face is all bloody, right? They never show him get his face. They never explain how that happened. It's one scene he's fine, and then the next scene his face is all bloody, and it's just like
what?
It's just
weird.
It's really, the editing is really haphazard, and it's strange.
Wait, so he never gets beat up or anything?
Well, it's implied that he got beaten up, and it's just, but you don't actually see it happen, and it's just kind of, it just doesn't make any sense. But then again, there are things about it that are really good, and I thought that the writing was really was good on it, and it's kind of bringing me up to a bit of a problem that I've had with a lot of the reviews, because some people have reviewed it, and the issue that I'm having is a lot of people are really condemning the movie, but they seem to be confused about the reasons why. Like, his character in the movie is kind of racist, right? And people are condemning it for that. But the thing is, just because the character is racist doesn't mean that the movie is racist, or by that extension, Clint Eastwood. And I just don't understand.
You can't sanitize cinema.
And I just don't understand how people can be so confused to that, though. Like, it doesn't mean that he's a racist because his character is a racist. The film is not racist. There's
because people have lost their fucking minds now.
There's a scene in the movie where he pulls over to help like a black family, change a tire on their car, right? And he does, he wants to help out, and he uses kind of an outdated term, right? And then they kind of look at him and they go, "Yeah, do you mind not using that term?" And then he's like, "Oh, well, what would you like me to call you?" And it's like, "How about just black or people?" And then he's like, "Oh, okay, well, shit." And it's kind of, and it's one of those things, like, you could tell that that Eastwood is on their side, and he's like, "Look how out of touch this guy is, how out of touch with reality is," and he's like he's like the butt of the joke in that scene, right? And it's just, I don't understand why people think that's necessarily racist, though. I mean, because the family, they're kind of like, "What the fuck are you saying?" Like that, like it's and it's a little bit, and another thing that was kind of annoying about it too is they're talking about how people seem to be really upset that all the, the drug dealers in it are Mexican, but I mean, that's where the drug traffic is coming from. That's the story. I mean, he was a drug runner for the cartel, and it's. Do
they think there aren't Mexican drug dealers?
No,
like,
and not only that
anymore. Give me a fucking break.
Not only that, but I mean, the fact also that Eastwood, is actually pretty sympathetic though towards the drug dealers in the movie. Like, they make a point of at one point, where the guys that he's working with on the street level are, they're not like, it's one of the few movies I've seen where the drug dealers aren't all portrayed as psychopaths. They're portrayed as like regular guys, who are doing drugs, and they can be deadly when they get pushed or when they have to be, but it's for business reasons. It's not necessarily personal reasons, and it's not necessarily sadism. Where
yeah, but it actually is. Drug cartels are
certain cases. Well, and they have crazy people working for them, and the movie kind of goes into that.
Shit,
like,
that those people do is unforgivable. They're fucking monsters.
Yeah.
They're monsters.
And they have a character in the movie that is a total monster, right? It's Clifton Collins is his son-in-law. Clifton Collins Jr. is his character is like a psychopath, cartel dealer, and he's the kind of person you talk about who does that like fucked up shit. You don't really see it in the movie. But, some of the gang members, some of the guys that he's talking to, are like guys with families and stuff like that. And he's kind of, he tries to be a little bit more, not necessarily sympathetic, but he tries to be a little bit open-minded, thinking that, oh, you could sometimes have people that aren't really, anyway, look, he tries to be three-dimensional with it. He really does. And I think he succeeds in certain cases, in the film. And it's weird that people are so against it, and I feel like a lot of it is the fact that, they have this idea of Clint Eastwood of what he's really like, and it's like, but the thing is, the art, the movie itself, his character is racist, and he's very unsympathetic for a lot of the movie. He's not supposed to be a nice guy, and like he calls his ex-wife Diane Wiest, who's wonderful in the movie, a bitch. He can be very cruel, and he can be an asshole. He doesn't show up to his daughter's wedding because he's too busy, with his job, and it's almost like a critique that Eastwood is making of himself too. At the same time, you read about his personal life, which has been all over.
And he has his daughter comes back in the film.
Yes,
too.
yes, Alison Eastwood.
Yeah, and it's came out of retirement to be in the film for him.
And it's very kind of critical about his own kind of legacy too, and the legacy of racism and stuff like that. And I think it's a much more introspective movie than people are giving it credit for. But I don't, but at the same time, like, I liked it, but I can also see why people might not like it. But I think that there are a lot of things that you could, give a genuine criticism towards the movie for, like, for instance, the fact that technically it's a mess, and that, the tone is very inconsistent. For about like 2/3 of the movie, it's like I thought I was watching Every Which Way But Loose 2, because it's like corn fucking zany humor, and then it gets dark towards the end. But it's not the movie the trailers advertise at all, though. They made it look like a really dark Clint Eastwood movie. It's not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. It did look, that's what it looks like to me. Yeah, well, that's a shame that people are, and I haven't seen the reviews.
It's basically Gran Torino 2, but not as hardcore as Gran Torino.
I love Gran Torino. It's a great movie. Well, I'll probably wait till video for the Mule.
It's worth seeing, though. I liked it. I thought his performance was really good. He's old, though. It's funny, you watch that movie and you really realize how old he is, and he shoots himself to look pretty old. And it's funny. Just there's a scene in the movie where there was a flashback to when he was a spry young man of 78. And it's like CGI and stuff like that to make himself look younger. I mean, he's clear. Wow. It's very clear. But then the next scene, you see what he really looks like, and all like the veins in his arm and stuff like that. And, he goes shirtless in a scene. You really see kind of like what the decline of like an old man's body is like, and it's just kind of, he's kind of acknowledging that about his own mortality, in a certain way that's kind of interesting. So that's the issue for me with a lot of Eastwood movies lately, though, is that there's always something interesting going on in them to make them worth watching. But I get frustrated by the fact that he's making them so quickly, because he doesn't really devote the attention to them that he should. I mean, even American Sniper, it had that really fake ass baby, it had some really terrible CGI, and it's just, you wish that Eastwood, I miss the Eastwood of like the 80s and the 90s, the Unforgiven Clint Eastwood that made these technically impeccable movies. And I just don't think he really cares anymore. I think he still likes telling stories, and I still think he likes doing movies, but I almost wish that he would hand the reins over to another director, though, and just like focus on producing them and acting in them or writing them or something like that. I don't know.
Do you have a review for that? Where's my review?
I'm writing it. I'm busy right now doing a podcast with you. It'll be.
Can you do both?
Yeah.
Write the review as you're talking. So you also posted a review for Mary Poppins Returns. What's the? What's the verdict on that?
I alluded to it last week. I got the screener for that one, and I had to watch it in halves, right? Because I kind of shut it off the first night, and then I went back to it the next day, and I think I'm probably too cynical a person for it. There were things about it that I liked. I liked Emily Blunt's performance a lot. I thought she did a really good job as Mary Poppins. I liked her singing. She's very charming in it. I liked Lin-Manuel Miranda a lot. I liked most of the cast. And there's one really long scene that's quite good with animation. That's a lot like the original Mary Poppins. But it is like the original Mary Poppins in a lot of ways. The fact that, I don't think the original Mary Poppins is one of the great musicals. I think The Sound of Music is a lot better. And it just because there's more to it, and it's just an assembly line Disney movie. And this does also feel kind of like an assembly line Disney movie. And it's kind of a boring director too, Rob Marshall. I think it's going to probably make a lot of money. I think people will like it. It's gotten a lot of nominations, which is puzzling to me too, though. The fact that, for the Golden Globes, they nominate, Emily Blunt, but then, they don't nominate, Yalitza Aparicio for Roma. It just doesn't really make any sense. The SAG Awards with the same thing, it's a little strange, but, it's fine. I think it's really overrated already, though. by the critics, and I think you'll absolutely despise it. So don't go see it.
I have no desires. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I know what my taste is, you know, and I see just about everything that I can.
Yeah.
But I just know that there's certain movies that I'm just kind of like that just don't. And musicals really are not my favorite.
Musicals I like if they're done well. You know, I mean, I loved La La Land. I liked.
And I loved La La Land. I'm the same way. Like if it's good, sure, but it's just a rarity. It's just not something I seek out.
enjoyed Greatest Showman. I thought Greatest Showman was good.
I've never seen it. I'm not.
But you know, I just don't like Rob Marshall very much. I don't like his movies that much. You know, Chicago is okay. Hated 8 or 9. No, 9. The version of 8.5.
About 10.
You know, just the fact that he has, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis singing, who really can't sing, you know, and Into the Woods, I really didn't care for.
Into the Woods.
It's terrible. Hated it. You know, and it was. And
I watched 10 minutes of Into the Woods, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, that was a hard.
I'm gonna find something else to do with my day.
Yeah, that was a very difficult movie to watch.
It was one of the movies because they sing the whole time.
Yeah, well, they don't do that in Mary Poppins, but it's just kind of I don't know. But
I'm just not into that, man. Like movies where they break into song. I thought La La Land actually is less. I felt it was more of a drama, and like the music really it worked exceptionally well to tell the story. But like the movies where they just like break into song at random, it just doesn't work for me, man. Like it's just not my thing. I respect that people will like it, but I mean, just for me, no.
I like a musical, but it's just, you know, Emily Blunt I thought was really good in it, but the movie itself I was not. I didn't really like.
Yeah. I know some people are very excited for it.
Oh, I'm sure
it's cool, but I'm just not.
Another one that really was bad though was I saw the Mortal Engines this week. I keep calling it Mortal Instruments. I'm getting my
You're getting your flops mixed up.
Oh, I have to write ads for a movie theater in Montreal from part of my job, and I swear I sent it off to production with the wrong title on Thursday and had to recall it like at the last minute. But anyway, Mortal Engines is basically has probably the dumbest plot I've ever heard for a post-apocalyptic movie. So basically, what happens is it's the future, and cities now, a huge city is basically like a big truck, right? They're all mobile and they drive around.
That's where we're headed.
So people are like living in these huge trucks that are just constantly driving. You know, where do they get the fuel for this truck that's like several miles long? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And they're called tractionists, and Hugo Weaving is the villain, and there's this scarred girl who's kind of trying to kill him, and this guy, this engineer who goes over, and it's just like it's so derivative of Star Wars and Mad Max Fury Road. It's just terribly done. The effects are really good, but written and produced by Peter Jackson, his wife, and Fran Walsh, and it's just or Philippa Boyens, and you watch that, and it's just like, how did these such talented people get involved with such like a crappy film, and it's so disposable. And there's, oh God, the audience was so against it when we were watching it too. And I mean, I could spoil it, and I guarantee you definitely won't want to see the movie if I spoil it. But
okay, spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
So there's a scene. So there's a scene in the movie. So the girl, she's got like a scar, right? And she's trying to kill Hugo Weaving. So at the end of the movie, she's facing off with Hugo Weaving, and she keeps having flashbacks to her mom getting killed. And her mom knew Hugo Weaving. And he goes, "Your mom never told you the truth, did she?" And then everybody in the theater starts laughing because they know it's coming next.
Oh,
and he says, "I'm your father."
Oh,
and it turns out that he's her father. And everybody in the theater started killing themselves laughing because it's so derivative, right? You know, and I remember even my girlfriend was like, "Oh my God." Like, it was so terrible. It was, and it's like a 10 episode series, I guess, that like is boiled down to like an hour and 45 minutes. And it happens. Everything happens so fast, and there's so much exposition. I was going to get up to go to the bathroom at one point, but then I had to turn back because there was something really important that was happening, and I couldn't get up because it was just too much information. And it was, I don't know. It was really bad. But I'll say this. The movie was terrible, but the score by Junkie XL was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, does Junkie XL do the score? That's cool.
Yeah, the score is...
He's a good composer. So.
Yeah, and you should buy the score album. He does... The score works overtime to try and make you excited. And I wanted to like the movie because the score is so good.
Wow, that's a good endorsement.
But the movie is absolutely terrible.
Well, another movie that came out that has a great score as well, which you said last week.
Yes, I thought one of the best
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, Daniel Pemberton. That's a great
Daniel
score.
Pemberton, who also did King Arthur, and he's done his King Arthur score is fucking amazing.
And his
That's
score
another one. And I actually liked the movie myself. I know that some people didn't, but I thought it was really cool. And the score works so well, and it's just
score
great
for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is excellent.
Really good. So I took my son to see it, and he loved it. He said it's actually his favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
And
it's on my top 10.
He loved the soundtrack. He loved, and the one thing when it was over, and I was thinking about it, is like, it really is a perfect film for his generation, for like the younger generation.
Oh yeah.
But it also has, the Peter Parker in the film. Like, I am the Peter Parker.
Yes.
Like that. It's like,
Me too.
That's me.
That's how I feel too, kind of,
Yeah, I was like, if I were younger, it'd be like, oh no, I'm the Miles Morales, but I'm not. That's not me, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, I am the Peter Parker character at this point in my life, and I think that's great. Is that my son? He's, I was like, well, which character do you like the best? And he's like, well, I like the main guy, Miles, and of course, like that would be his favorite because that's his age group. That's his thing, and my son, he's raised, he doesn't see color. Like, we don't, there's no racism in my group. So it's not like, it doesn't have anything to do with black or white. Like, anybody can be anything. And that's kind of the point of the movie anyways.
Well, he's a very universal character though. And there's no discussion and there's not really any discussion of race in the film either.
Nor should there be. And it's a testament to the movie is just what it is. And that's great. Yeah. And that's the other thing that I loved about it. There was never a moment of preachiness. Mm-hmm. Like, go watch Zootopia. You will fucking be beat over the fucking head with social messages. You can go watch. Oh God, I hate that movie. But you watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It has people from all. It's diversity. Check the block, but it's not thrown in your face. It's just like, hey, here we go. This is just a bunch of different people from different places, different Spider-Men, Spider-Women, whatever.
That's how it is.
And it's a blast.
We live in a diverse world, and here it is.
Sure. And they pulled it off exceptionally well. It's funny. It's exciting. Its animation style is absolute perfection.
Oh, and it's just psychedelic. The colors are amazing.
And we saw it in 3D. I highly recommend.
I didn't see it in 3D. I wish I'd seen it in 3D. But they what I liked about it though too is the way they use the animation form is great because you can do stuff with animation that you could never do in live action. I mean, that same movie would have cost, how much money would it have cost?
That was my thought at the end of the movie. I was like, there's no way they can make this live action.
Yeah,
the amount of
money.
That's
how it should be though. It shouldn't be like an animated live action film. It should be a real animation thing. I really liked it. And I thought Jake Johnson did a really good job as Peter Parker as well. I liked Shamik Moore as Miles Morales. I love those characters. I liked the nods to the older Sony Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I liked the Spider-Verse a lot. I liked Spider-Gwen. I thought she was great.
It was basically Emma. What's her nuts? My brain's not working.
Oh yeah.
Basically, she is her. Like, it looks exactly like her.
And I think she's supposed to be. If you look at the Peter Parker from her scene too, it looks like Andrew Garfield. So it's kind of interesting that they did that.
Yeah, and then it was interesting too that the first Peter Parker that's in the movie is voiced by Chris Pine, and I heard his voice. And I was like, I thought it was Jake Johnson that was doing his voice. I was like, that sounds like Chris Pine, and it was Chris Pine. I saw the credits. I was like, oh shit, I was right.
I had heard that originally they were thinking about having it be Tobey Maguire, but they just weren't. They didn't want. They thought it might be too risky or something, which is kind of too bad because it would have been kind of cool in a way. But they kind of heavily imply though that Jake Johnson's character is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's what it feels like. It feels like it's like the Tobey Maguire character post Spider-Man 3.
And he acts like him, and he acts like him too. And it's like he's had a couple bad years, but he's still a hero, And
it has to be that character because they allude to all, like, he's like, and then this happened. We don't really talk about that anymore. Where he's like doing the dance walk down the street and everything. Like, it's very obvious that that's which Spider-Man he is.
But I liked that too, and I thought that Johnson actually did a really good job voicing the character and capturing the character because he's funny, but it's not just the comic role either. He's also heroic, and he's a superhero. Like he is Spider-Man.
Some serious drama in there. So
the drama in that movie is great. I mean, some of the stuff with Miles and his uncle I thought was really well done. I was kind of taken aback and moved by that, and that and I even like though when it was like somebody says at one point, oh, this is pretty hardcore. His origin story is pretty hardcore.
Yeah,
it is. But it's really kind of gets you into the sacrifice that you have to make, and and how messy it can be. And I really liked it a lot. I thought it was that blew my expectations through the roof. I was not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as it was, and it was terrific.
Yeah. Terrific. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Between that and Aquaman, definitely those are the two movies to go see. This,
but you're not sure though if it's your favorite Spider-Man though.
No,
where do you rank it in the pantheon?
I would rate it after Spider-Man 2. There's something. Oh my God, I have to go kill my child. Hang on, he's ringing the fucking doorbell because he locked himself out. I'll be right back. I'm a fucking murderer. The thing with the Maguire and the Sam Raimi films is that they represented like that early, like kind of classic era that really kicked off what we have now.
Yeah.
And they're just like, there's like an innocence and a charm about those films that has not been recreated since. Even with Spider-Man Homecoming, which I really liked, still is, it's not the Maguire and the Raimi films. So, and I like Holland. I think Tom Holland is great.
Well, I like that version of Spider-Man is quite different than this version of Spider-Man, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they're not even trying to be like a parallel type thing. Like it's kind of like they have the potential that it could exist, but it's just
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's where ultimately I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is absolutely one of the best Spider-Man films made, but just not. I'm not ready to just say, oh, it's the best of all time. I think it's great, but I prefer. There's just something like about the origin and of Spider-Man that it's told so well in the Raimi film, the original Raimi film, that it's hard to recapture that. And I feel like you only get that like once.
I also really liked the villains in it. I liked Doc Ock, and I liked Kingpin a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
You could have Kingpin look like he looks in the comics too, where it's all like muscle and stuff like that. You can't really do that in live action yet.
I don't know. I really like Vincent D'Onofrio. I think he's perfect as Kingpin in the Daredevil series. But you don't watch Daredevil, so you don't know. Dirtbag. He's great in it.
Well, I've seen the first season.
Oh, well then. All right. So shall we take some few? We only have a few viewer reader listener questions. Let's see. A bunch of DC questions. What do you think could Aquaman's success lead to $1 billion at the box office? Sure.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not really. I'm not gonna see any of that money. I got paid in lobster rolls, so I just don't get wrapped up in that. I think Aquaman is great. I'm going to go see it again tonight for the special Amazon Prime screening.
Yeah, they're not doing that in Canada.
It's because you're Canadian.
We have Amazon Prime. Bullshit. Because I tried to register and they.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, they don't have them.
I'm looking forward to your thoughts. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it Thursday.
It's a fun fucking movie. Like I think you'll appreciate.
Sure, don't like that Pitbull cover of Africa though. Oh boy.
Oh god, it's in there for like 2 seconds. Who cares? Yeah. But it fits the mold of the film because it has kind of like this cheesy 90s action movie vibe in certain parts, but it's great. It's like I said, kind of like Demolition Man type stuff.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Which I love. It's great. Let's see here. Best Christmas movies. I mean, for me, Christmas Story is like my tops, but there's a bunch of others that I like. I just watched The Family Stone last night, which I love.
I love The Family Stone.
Such a great story.
I really like that movie.
And it's a great example of a story that can be hilarious and dramatic, and it tackles so many like issues at the same time. It is a great Christmas family drama with
I mean,
some comedy in it. It's great.
I still really like It's a Wonderful Life a lot. I think that's a great movie. I like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, of course.
Die Hard's the best movie of all time.
Cobra, that takes place at Christmas. First Blood takes place at Christmas.
Oh, I don't even probably remember that.
Yeah, but I do like a good Christmas movie. It's funny. I watched for the first time last week Krampus.
Oh, I love Krampus.
Yeah, that was good.
I took my kid to see it when it came out,
Yeah.
and he cried at the end because he was so scared.
Yeah.
And the next day on some radio show here in Alaska, I guess the host, one of the radio hosts, was in the theater, and he went on air, was complaining about how some asshole parents took their child to go see Krampus. He was crying at the end. And that was me. Oh, scarred for life. I keep wanting to watch Krampus too, and I'm like, let's watch Krampus. And my son's like, no, I don't want to watch it. I'm like, you pussy.
I liked it though. I enjoyed it. I watched it on Netflix.
Oh, is it on Netflix? I already
Canadian. It's on the Canadian Netflix.
Oh, eh?
Yeah.
Canadian. Take off, you hoser.
If you're talking about Christmas specials, though, somebody was saying, I was looking at your questions. I really like Red Sleigh Down, the South Park one, where Mr. Hanky, they go to bust Santa Claus out of a rack. And then Mr. Hanky takes a bullet for Santa, and then Santa's like, no.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, it's
That's
pretty good.
awesome.
And then he's being tortured, and they're spoofing Three Kings. And then they're like, and he's like, tell us where the presents are. And he's like, and he goes, well, I hope you assholes don't have any plans because this is gonna be a long fucking night. I like it too. And there was also Scrooged, of course. I like parts of Scrooged. Scrooged, I think, is actually overrated, but I like a lot of it. Like I love the opening. Psycho sees Santa's workshop, and only one man can save them. Eat this, Lee Majors.
I just watched too. I kind of go through the whole Rolodex at Christmas time, and I'll watch everything at least once, like everything that's like worthwhile, anyways, that I'm into, and that's pretty much it. But there's certain ones that I'll just go through again and again. I also like a lot of people that I don't think know about this, but there's a SpongeBob SquarePants stop motion little animated short. It's about 30 minutes, and it's great. If you love the old stop motion animation, like the Rudolph and the Rankin Bass or whatever the fuck it's called,
I really like the old Rankin Bass.
Highly recommend checking out the SpongeBob SquarePants Christmas special. It's awesome.
I love
animation. It's great.
I love the old Rudolph one though. That's great.
Oh yeah, same here for sure. So yeah, let's see. Do you think we'll ever see a Justice League 2 with Legion of Doom?
Nope.
Like maybe in a decade.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think you'll see Justice League again for a good long time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
Because they done fucked that up.
They'll try and do it again, but it won't be with anybody from the series now. I don't think.
Everybody's all these DC questions about.
Oh, yeah, there sure are a lot of DC fans out there.
Yeah, well, does Aquaman seemingly joining Wonder Woman's success and building on the existing warts and all DCU make WB rethink their assumed clearing of the board? Why they're not clearing the board? They never cleared the board. The only thing they cleared out was Zack Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really all it came down to. Like they fired Zack
officially.
Snyder.
Officially, he's the only one that's really out. I mean, there's rumors about Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, like the Affleck thing, I just have no fucking idea what's going on with that. Probably they won't use him, but
yeah,
fuck, who knows, man? Reeves.
You think they would have announced it? Like, they would have announced it by now, though.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm kind of like, well, who knows? I'm not trying to put hope in anybody's fuck because I don't have any idea what the fuck they're gonna do. But
if it was up to me, I'd bring him back, though.
I mean, if depending on what Reeves' story is, I think that's what it all comes down to. If it's a story that takes place
back into shape, though, he's looking rough these days.
Well, I mean, he's in and out of treatment. He's just such a gamble, like on a personal level, and that's like when studios with the insurance companies because these actors have to be insured, and that's where they get nervous, and it's just like, well, can he handle it? And they're looking at the long game.
I just saw the trailer for his Netflix movie 999, which looks really cool. Triple Frontier, sorry, but it looks really cool. But I find he looks kind of out of shape to be like a SEAL. Like, I don't know.
He's not a SEAL. He's Special Forces.
Well, he's ex-Special Forces, I guess. But he looks, I don't know. I just find he looks really out of shape.
I don't know. Everybody looks pretty normal to me.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Triple Frontier, but
me too.
At the same time, I don't know. We'll see how they handle it. Everybody assumes as soon as you get out of the military, like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that. Obviously, I take that a little personally, how they do that.
Well, it's Mark Bull. I know you're not a huge Mark Bull fan.
Ugh, the writer of the worst war film ever made. So there you have it. I mean, this is a guy that like truly did not have the pulse of soldiers. And he won an Oscar, so everybody's like slapping him on the back. You did such a great job, but the people that actually served are not. They're just like, what? Like you talk to anybody that was a fucking EOD specialist in Iraq, ask them about the Hurt Locker. Just do it. Ask them. See what they say. Anything else? All WB stuff today. DC.
Oh, what 2019 movies are you looking forward to?
Where do you see that?
That's in there.
It is?
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't go far enough back. 2019, fucking goddamn Endgame. Avengers Endgame for sure. Wonder Woman 84 got kicked back.
Yeah, 2020 now.
So I was looking forward to that. I was looking forward to Top Gun sequel, but that's 2020 as well. Fuck, I gotta stay alive for at least 2 more years. Yeah, let's see. Fuck. Avengers Endgame. What else is coming out that I'm forgetting
John
about?
Wick Chapter 3, I'm pretty excited for.
Oh, yeah. Definitely I'll see John Wick 3.
Godzilla King of Monsters looks pretty cool, but burned after the last one.
Yeah, Godzilla. Shazam, I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Men in Black International looks kind of fun. I think the one that
I need to see a trailer. I just need to see a little more. I like the cast, but I just need to see what vibe is for that.
The one I'm really looking forward to, I would say, my most anticipated movies, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, for sure.
Oh yeah. New Tarantino comes out. That's
definitely that. Also, the new Terminator. Pretty excited for that. Assuming they don't totally fuck it up, although
I'm not excited. It's like one of those things where like, well, I'll probably see it. I really got burned on Genesis. That was torture.
Hobbs and Shaw, I'm pretty excited for.
Oh yeah, some David Leitch action. New Rambo. Hopefully that comes out next year.
Yeah, we'll see. Ad Astra, I'd kind of like to see. I like that director a lot, James Gray. But you know what I'm really looking forward to? Downton Abbey, the movie. I'm not even kidding. I fucking love Downton Abbey.
I didn't even watch the trailer. I saw
wonderful show. I cannot wait, man. I'm seriously excited for that.
I am looking forward to seeing the new Star Wars, but I will say that my fucking excitement level and my anticipation is just the lowest that it's ever been for a Star Wars film. So, and in a way that's good. I feel like I can kind of just let a lot of that shit go after being so disappointed with Last Jedi. But I am obviously going to go see it, and I'm hopeful that it will somehow tie these 3 movies into an actual trilogy.
Speaking of Rian Johnson, though, I'm actually really looking forward to Knives Out.
The cast sounds great.
Daniel Craig, Michael Shannon, Don Johnson. He's in it. And
I know anything with Don Johnson, of course.
Joker. I'm very excited for Joker.
Oh yeah, that's right. Fuck.
And I hope that Dragged Across Concrete finally comes out.
There's something and Mel's directing the Mark Wahlberg World War II movie.
I don't think that's gonna go this year though.
Well, you never know. That could be a Christmas one for next year if they
I heard he was gonna do Wild Bunch first though.
Yeah, I don't know. One or the other. So, Hellboy too. Obviously the new Hellboy. Looking forward to that. But yeah, there's a whole bunch more. This happens every year. It's like you get excited for the prospects of the new year, and
things get pushed.
Things get pushed. Dates change. Fuck, do they change?
Things get moved up. Also, it's December. They could throw together a movie in 6 months, and things are totally different. Yeah. They did that last year too. I mean, there are a lot of movies that are out now that were kind of like not even really announced last year. and that are suddenly making big waves. You know, and it's funny, you hear about things and you don't necessarily know like what your favorites are automatically going to be. I mean, for me, you know, excuse me, when I look back at, you know, my favorite movies of the year, I mean, one of them is Destroyer, and I didn't think that that movie was necessarily going to be any good when I heard about it. I thought, you know, I would be okay, but it ended up being one of my favorites of the year. Same thing with First Reformed. I had no idea. I thought it was. I even passed it. I didn't even watch it at TIFF when I had seen it because I didn't think it'd be any good, you know. And that happens a lot, you know. So we'll see. It's way too early to tell.
And that's always great, is the surprises, you know.
Yeah.
I love the surprises. I love when a movie comes out, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? That was amazing. Never saw that coming. Those are like the best ones, you know? And even if it's a movie you're anticipating, turns out to be just fucking magnificent, is great. And then it's always heartbreaking when it turns out a movie you're looking forward to is complete garbage. So
surprises.
And I guarantee you that will happen in 2019. Something that you are really looking forward to will probably suck. That's just kind of the nature of the beast.
I'm really looking forward to the Joker movie. I'm really looking forward to that.
You said that already. Now you said it twice.
I'm really looking forward to the Joker.
You love that Joaquin.
Oh, you know what? Probably my most anticipated movie of the year is, though, besides Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman.
Is that? I wonder if that's going to actually go theatrical, though.
Maybe.
He's saying that it might, but it's still unclear, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, fuck Scorsese, fucking Pacino, De Niro, everybody. Fuck.
Bobby D.
Fuck Bobby D. So yeah, lots to look forward to in 2019. I think next week probably be our last episode of the year.
Yep.
So we'll do a little roundup. Chris and I will talk about our favorite movies of the year, and yeah, if there's any news. It's going to be a slow week news-wise, but
maybe a look back at the year that was.
A look back. And then, yeah, so January for us, that will be, we'll kick off our second season of the podcast, assuming I can get Chris to come back. We're in vicious negotiations right now for his contract to see if we can keep. But it would be our second season. So that means our graphic will change. We've already changed the music to be royalty free. So I'm sorry for the Miami Vice fans. I love that music too, but I don't own it. So we're trying to keep everything royalty.
I'll call Jan Hammer. Maybe he'll give us the rights.
Yeah. Just give him a buzz. Bro, come on. Some podcast.
I'll get Dawn to call him.
All right. So we're going to end on some festive music tonight. I've been singing Feliz Navidad all day because my kid was singing it. So
yeah, Feliz Navidad. Okay, so that's Jose Feliciano. I have a quick Jose Feliciano story. So I used to work for this guy named Roy Green, who's like a pretty big like radio host in Canada, right? Kind of conservative guy, but anyway, I was his producer for a while, right? Like his op. You know, I worked in my early 20s or my mid 20s. I was an op. So I basically pushed the buttons, screened the calls, stuff like that. And I worked with him for a while, and we had on Jose Feliciano one week because it turned out that him and Roy Green were buddies. And Jose Feliciano, so he was blind, right? And he was famous for that. And apparently he had a really good sense of humor about himself, though, and he would play pranks on his friends where like he would pretend that he was driving a car and his friend would be like crouched down and like steering and looking over, and he would do this like routinely and make it look like he was driving around just to like freak people out to see how they'd react because he was famously blind. And he used to call Feliz Navidad Felix Nab my dad. They used to call it that. He was a pretty fun guy. He's a Puerto Rican famous singer, excellent singer. He has a great voice. If you look him up on YouTube, Jose Feliciano, some great stuff. Except without just Feliz Navidad. Although Feliz Navidad, I think, keeps the lights on. I'm sure he's had a very nice collection of royalties off of that song. But good for him, because apparently he's a great guy. So good for him.
Feliz Navidad. Da, 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 da. Feliz Navidad. Wish you
Merry Christmas.
I want to wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart.
Of course, we're not going to be playing that version because we can't afford it.
I can't afford it, guys, so I'm going to play some fucking free B-level version for you that's playing right now. But hey, it's all in the Christmas spirit, and we thank you for joining us and giving us hours of your time. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we have 14 fans now, Chris. I'm upping it by one. I think we've garnered at least one additional listener. So to all 14 of you that are listening, I love you all. Thank you for enduring us. We enjoy rambling about movies and talking movie shit with y'all. And I like talking to Chris and his bald head.
I like talking to you and your lustrous beard.
Somebody asked me what kind of beard oil I use, and I feel bad. They asked me on Twitter, and I totally forgot about it. But I don't even remember the brand, but I have like a whole bunch of them. I just throw a bunch of shit in there. And some cooking spray. And I use Windex as my cologne. Just kidding.
Class.
That's the one
Capital
thing.
K.
All the damn vampires. All right, thank you for joining us.
When you're a stranger.
No, you can't change the song. We're doing Feliz
That
Navidad.
Echo and the Bunnymen cover. That can't be too expensive.
We'll give you $5. All right,
Yeah.
$5. I got a couple of Blu-rays.
You can have my digital download codes.
My digital. Those are actually what I'd rather give you the disc and keep the codes at this point. They sent me, by the way, peppermint. So, ooh, what a weekend I've got ahead of me.
I still haven't seen that.
I probably won't watch it. But hey, thanks for saying. Very nice of you. I'm not going to watch it. All right, so Feliz Navidad. We will see you guys next week talking best of. Have your questions ready for us next week as well for the finale of season 1 of The Beard and the Bald. Holy shit.
It's going to be epic.
We did good. We lasted we had a good year.
We did.
We did. So thank you for joining us. We will see you guys next week. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
All right, I'm off to run some errands.
Cool.
Talk to you later, dude.
Don't run into your girlfriend. You'll see your presents.
Oh, hope not. See you later, man.
See you, buddy.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año.